Hi everyone, and welcome to this very short time lapse of a lovely black and white collie dog. I'm going to narrate throughout this video and share some of my tips and techniques, but if you'd like to learn in more depth, do check out my Patreon channel where you'll find full-length tutorials and lots more. But if you haven't already and you like this video, please do subscribe to me here on YouTube and be sure to check out all my other free content here on my channel. But I hope you enjoy this. As always, my work is in soft pastel, and for this piece I'm working on Hanimal Velour paper, one of my favourite surfaces to work on. And I have lots of tutorials and information about this paper on both my YouTube channel and my Patreon channel if you're interested in learning more. But it's great for capturing the softness, especially in an animal portrait like this. And you can see that the photo reference that I was working from is not the highest of quality, but I could see more than enough detail to capture a good likeness. And to be honest, sometimes working from a slightly grainy photograph, as long as I can see the eyes clearly and see enough of the detail in the fur, sometimes not being able to see absolutely every single individual hair can be a blessing, and it can allow you to be a little bit more expressive and slightly more loose with your mark making. So I spent the first while blocking in a lot of the dark areas. It's tricky when you're painting a black and white animal, as you don't want the white areas to lighten your dark areas, and vice versa. You don't want your dark areas to bleed into your light areas. So it is all about keeping both parts nice and clean as you work. And I like to get a lot of the initial dark pigment on the paper first, so that my lighter colours will go on top. So I will be releasing a full-length tutorial on my Patreon channel next month, covering in depth how to get the black and white effect without muddying each other. I've also got another short video coming on focusing on how to create those really soft edges where the white bleeds into the black and vice versa. So there are many tricks used on one animal portrait. I would say that even if dogs aren't particularly the thing that you want to paint, you can still learn a lot even from a dog portrait tutorial, as much of the techniques that I use across the board no matter what the subject matter that I'm working on. At the end of the day, everything is just light and shade, shapes and colour. And with a white dog, the main trick is to try and create enough contrast in the shadow areas so that the parts of the white fur that are being hit by direct sunlight can really show up and have good contrast against the other areas. If you overuse your white, you're going to find your painting will look very flat at the end with no real direction of lighting. So that's what I'm always most interested in painting. It's how light hits any surface. So no matter what the subject matter, it's always the light that I'm trying to depict. And once I realised that, it really helped me to broaden the scope of subject matters that I enjoy painting. I think I always had something in my mind that told me I couldn't paint landscapes or, well, many other subject matters. I mainly focused on animals and people's faces when I first started out. But the more I started to challenge myself to paint other things, I realised that really, if you put the same effort into looking at it and trying to depict the lighting, every subject matter can be a real joy to paint, no matter what. And it's fun to challenge yourself and broaden the subject matters that you attempt. But in this piece, it was a very straightforward portrait. You can see I didn't even have to add a background. I went for something very plain just a gentle gradient that very subtly complements the edges of the dog. And of course, I'm always working pretty much from the top of the piece downwards and roughly from left to right. You can see that I've always got somewhere to lean my hand and not have it smudging work that I've already done. So in my full-length tutorials on Patreon next month, I'm going to go into great depth on how I create the white fur that's in shadow especially. You'll be surprised to see some of the darker colours that I use in this area, and like I said before, completely avoiding using white in this area. It's one of the trickiest things to paint, I think, white fur or any white subject matter, as it tends to reflect a lot of colour. And even though our minds tell us that it's white in reality, we really need to train our eyes to look for the actual colours that we're seeing. So colour choice is hugely important, no matter what the subject matter and no matter what the medium. And it's something that I'm always talking about in my longer tutorials. And in these longer tutorials, I take you through step by step what I'm doing. And I share each and every colour code as I'm using it so that you can see clearly exactly what colour I'm using and why. And it's been a most time-consuming method of making tutorials, as it takes me ages to add in all of the colour codes. But I've heard time and time again from you guys that you really like this. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need all the exact same colours as me to create something similar. I like to add the colour codes because it encourages people to go and look at their own pastel collection and see what they have that they might be able to substitute for that would be similar. But colour is so important, and it's one of the main things that I teach a lot about. And you can just see how being more subtle with the highlights on this side of the dog's body helps bring out the definition in the fur, but without losing that lovely directional light effect. So this has been high speed, but I hope that you have enjoyed seeing the process and how it all builds up gradually. Thanks very much for watching, and I really hope that you'll subscribe to me here on YouTube and check back in for my future content. If you haven't already though, lots to catch up with already on my channel, all free content. Until next time, happy pasteling.